Everyone who's ever visited a nursing home thinks they understand what happens inside. They don't. I know, because I lived there. And then I escaped at 96 years old just to live again. You know what nobody ever tells you? The door is never actually locked. You can leave. Most people just forget their legs still work. I didn't forget. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I saw in that place before I got out. My daughter's name is Patricia. She's 58 years old. She sat across from me at that kitchen table, the same table where I taught her how to write her name, and she slid a piece of paper toward me. A psychiatric evaluation, cognitive decline, unable to manage independent living. I looked at her. She couldn't look at me. That was 2 years and 47 days ago. She got the house, the $340,000 property her mother and I paid off together over 31 years. She got it because of that report. And I was placed in room 11 at a nursing home, 45 minutes from everyone I'd ever known. Single bed, a window that faced nothing, a television bolted to the ceiling, like I was already in a hospital, like I was already gone. Before I go on, I want you to understand something. I'm 96 years old. I know what year it is. I remember the helplessness I felt reading that report with eyes that could barely focus. I remember every one of those 381 days, and I could feel myself disappearing the whole time I was in there. Here's what you need to know. You can't just walk out of a place like that on your own terms. There's a sign-out sheet. There's a protocol. Families get called. Doors are monitored. They don't call it locked, but it sure isn't open either. I knew all of this, so I waited for the shift change. 7 a.m., when the night staff was walking out and the morning staff was still getting their coffee. I put on my coat. I took my medication and Eleanor's photograph off the nightstand, and I walked out of there like I owned the place, because for 381 days I hadn't been acting like I did. That was 6 months ago. I now live on Birchwood Street with a woman named Keisha. She's 36. She lost her father 12 years ago. The neighbors have decided they understand our situation. They don't. They see a 96-year-old man and a young divorced woman, and they write their own story. Well, here's the real one. The daughter who took my house hasn't called in 4 months. The woman who took me in has known me for 2. Eleanor told me something before she passed that I've never forgotten, and I understand it better now than I ever did. You spent 43 years building bridges, she used to say. Real bridges, the kind that hold weight. But you never did build yourself a retirement plan. She wasn't wrong. We were married 51 years. She went quietly, in her sleep, the way people hope to go. I called Patricia first. She called the doctors first, then lawyers, then people I'd never met in my life. I didn't know any of this at the time. I found out later, the way you find out most painful things. Far too late to do anything about it. Room 11. I want you to picture it. Not the version in the brochure with photos that look like a hotel. The real version. A single bed with a plastic mattress cover that crinkled every time you moved. A nightstand with one drawer that wouldn't close all the way. A shared bathroom down the hall. Every morning at 7 a.m., a woman named Brenda knocked on the door. "Good morning, Dad. Time for breakfast." Brenda was kind. I want to be clear about that. Everyone there was kind. And that was almost the worst part, because kindness without recognition is just management. I watched the men around me stop talking, not because they had nothing to say, but because nobody was listening anymore. And one thing surprised me more than I expected. There was a man, Raymond, who used to be a high school football coach, 40 years, state championships. Every afternoon, he'd sit by the window and move his hands like he was drawing plays on a chalkboard that wasn't there. I asked him one day what he was doing. Coaching, he said. Who? He looked at me. Doesn't matter. I still know how. That was the moment I understood what that place actually was. It wasn't a care facility. It was a storage unit for people whose families had run out of room. I started keeping a notebook. Small orange one fit right in my shirt pocket. Every day I wrote the date, the weather, and one thing I noticed. I'm not a sentimental man. That wasn't the point. I needed proof. Proof that I was still here, still thinking, still present in this world. On day 47, Patricia called. Asked if I needed anything. I told her I needed to go home. The house has been transitioned, she said. I asked what that meant. She said she'd explain later. She never did. On day 48, a man in the common room helped me look up my old address on his tablet. My eyes weren't great. Listed for sale, $389,000. Sold in 11 days. I sat with that for a long time. You know that feeling when bad news hits you all at once. Your whole body just goes cold. Cold sweat. Stomach dropping out from under you. That was exactly it. Because Eleanor and I had paid off that house over 31 years together. Then eventually I calmed down, and what I felt wasn't really anger. It was something quieter. The specific sadness of realizing you misread someone you spent your whole life trying to read. On day 203, Patricia came to visit. She brought carnations. Eleanor hated carnations. I didn't say a word. We sat together for about 20 minutes. She talked about her job, her kids, traffic on the highway. She hugged me at the door, said she'd be back soon. On day 204, she hadn't come back. On day 206, I started watching the shift changes, the way an engineer watches a structure for stress points. 7 a.m. was the gap. 4 minutes, sometimes 5, between the night staff clocking out and the morning staff getting organized. The sign-out sheet sat unattended on the front desk. I wasn't planning anything. That's what I kept telling myself. On day 381, I stopped telling myself that. Before I go on, I want to thank this channel for giving people like us a voice. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free. Like the video and share your thoughts and your stories down in the comments. I found Keisha's listing on a community board at the library. The nursing home had a van that took residents out on Thursdays. Room for rent, quiet street, flexible terms. I called from the library's front phone. She answered on the second ring. How old are you? She asked after I explained my situation. 96. Silence. Are you serious? What's your name? Harold. Harold. She said it like she was testing the weight of it. I have a 6-year-old, she said. The house isn't always quiet. I built bridges for 43 years, I told her. I can handle a little noise. Another silence, longer this time. When can you come see the room? What I didn't know then, what Keisha told me weeks later, was that she'd been sitting in that house for 2 months, barely keeping up with the mortgage. She and her husband had split 5 months before we ever spoke. He'd cleaned out the joint account 3 days after she filed the papers. She had $340 in checking and a son named Jaden, 6 years old, who thought his dad was away on some long work trip overseas. She needed $800 a month. My pension covered it. and then some, but neither of us expected what came after. That first morning, I came downstairs and Keisha was standing at the kitchen counter, eating cereal over the sink, staring at nothing. The way people stare when they're doing math they can't solve. I asked if she wanted some coffee. She looked at me like she'd never heard the word before. You drink coffee? I've been drinking coffee since 1958, I said. Sit down. She sat. We had coffee. She was a little guarded at first, which was fair. A strange old man in her house. She didn't talk much. Neither did I. But she stopped staring at nothing, and that became our morning. 3 weeks in, Jaden came home from school with a drawing. Houses, people standing out front. He handed it to me without saying a word. I looked at it. A stick figure with white hair, standing next to a small one. That's you, he said. You're my Grandpa Harold. I looked over at Keisha. She was looking at the refrigerator, pretending she wasn't listening. The neighbors still talk. A woman named Carol from across the street asked Keisha directly if she was taking advantage of an elderly man. Keisha told her that I manage my own finances, that I take care of myself just fine, that I drove her to the grocery store twice last week, and that I fixed the leaking kitchen faucet the Sunday before. Patricia called last month, my daughter, first time in 4 months, asked how I was doing. I told her well. She asked where I was living. Birchwood Street, I said. With who? With my daughter, I said. She got upset, started saying something. I told her I had to go. Jaden was waiting on help with his homework. A long pause. We'll talk soon, Patricia. I hung up. I'm 96 years old. I wake up every morning in a room I chose. I eat what I want to eat. I have coffee with a woman who sees me as the father she lost when she was 12. I have a 6-year-old who draws me into his pictures and calls me Grandpa. Eleanor's photograph is on my nightstand, same as always, just a different nightstand. The cruelest thing about getting old isn't the body slowing down. It's finding out which people in your life were truly loving you and which ones were just waiting for you to become an asset. I survived 381 days waiting to disappear. But I'm not waiting to disappear anymore. I'm enjoying every single one of them.